So good morning, everyone. So this morning, I'll be talking about technical terms a product manager should know. So my name is Nordin Ajani. I'm a product manager at Bincom Dev Center. So are you worried about how to collaborate with the software engineers in your team? Maybe you actually had that before as a product manager. You've heard them say a lot of things when you're having discussion. Okay, how do you get this thing done? And they mentioned several times, and you don't even know what it is all about. So worry no more. These tips will help you get started. So who is a product manager? So a product manager is a professional role that connects business strategy, design knowledge, and customer needs in order to develop a product that is relevant, feasible, and valuable. So if you look at my screen, you will see a particular picture over there. There is a lot of definitions out there for who is a product manager. And we can see that even in this century, you find a situation whereby a product manager will be in a company and they are just everywhere you get. But we can say that the major definition of what product manager is all about is that is a role that actually work with the UX, the design team, the technical teams, and the business. They are the one that actually have a discussion a lot of time with stakeholders, and then they want to they are trying to build a product that will be profitable to business, and at the same time that will be more useful to the customers. So that's exactly what a product manager is all about. So like I said, so what this particular presentation is all about is to mention some few technical terms a product manager should know, so that it will help them whenever they're having they are working with engineers or designers. So one of those terms that is actually common that we've heard a lot as a product manager is front end and back end. So what is front end? We are using this scenario more like can I call it a joke or something like that? That if software products were houses, front ends are their facades. Like front end development is the programming of all visible elements to visitors, users of websites and web applications. You could remember that if you go to bincom.devcenter.com, when you go there, you are going to see some interface. You understand? You see out of those interfaces, you may see the Bincom ICT product and some other things like that. So those are things you can see as a user. So that is exactly who actually make that possible. The stack that actually made that possible is the front end. And I use that scenario on my presentation here, whereby you see this particular picture. You can see the kitchen side. You can see the waiter trying to serve a food to a customer. I can see that customer is a little kid there. So where the aspect whereby the waiter is trying to like if you go to a restaurant, you see the waiter will bring a food from the kitchen to where the sitting room where people can actually you can eat the food. So that is the front end. But where everything is being done, everything is being cooked. Let me use the scenario of shawarma. If you want to make a shawarma now, you have to cut the chicken, you have to grill the chicken, you have to wrap it. There are a lot of processes that actually happen in the kitchen. So all those things that happen in that kitchen, that is exactly the back end. So what is back end? Backend development is the area of web development focused on all of the necessary background processes occurring at the server side of websites, web apps, and mobile apps. So backend refers to the part of website or software where data is being stored and managed. So I just want you to understand it this way. So front-end development is what you can see. That is, we are going to a website now, that is the user phase you can see. But when let's say for example now you want to register and you're able to put in your data, and when you come back later you're able to log in, you put in your email and password, and when you click on that, there's a lot of validation that happen in the backend, and that is exactly what backend is all about. And once you click on it, all those user interface you can see when you're working on your computer, that is exactly what front end is all about. So front-end use terms like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So like I said earlier, I said you go to bincomdevcenter.com, it's like a website, you can see some Bincom ICT products and some other things like that. You'll be seeing some tests, you understand, you'll be seeing some pictures you'll be seeing a connection between one page and another page. So what is HTML? HTML is hypertext markup languages. It is used to program display and layout of a web page. Like I said, you can see on my screen, I have a line of code that is actually explain a little thing about the HTML and CSS. You can see the HTML code, there's JavaScript, there's CSS. So what I'm trying to say, if you go to the beacomdevcenter.com, let's say you see the Beacom ICT product, you see some tests that the rest, what they use to do that is the HTML. Then CSS is cascading styling sheet. It is used alongside HTML to program the design of a web page. Now, like I said, when you go to a page now, you see some colors, you see some connection between one layout to another layout, you see some expressions in that way. So what they use to do that styling is what? Is the CSS. So why the third one is JavaScript. JavaScript is used to add functionality to a web page so that whenever you click a button, there will be a response. So that is exactly what JavaScript is used, because if JavaScript was not used, the only thing you have is more like you are reading an article. There is no way, if you read an article, let me give you one example. Now, if you read an article now, as you read that article, then you can make your comments. So what they use for you to click on that comment and you can write whatever it is and you send it, is actually the work of JavaScript. So that is exactly what this HTML says and JavaScript. So they use it along each other. HTML for text, CSS for styling, and JavaScript for functionality. So talking about the full stack, I'm sure you might have heard a lot of statements like Mr. King is a full stack engineer, Mr. Joshua is a full stack engineer. So if you heard about full stack, what does it even mean? It means that there are several stacks, together to make it full. It means that the person have a knowledge of doing this particular stack. So, and they know almost everything that lands. So that is actually what makes them a full stack. So in your career, you might have heard of people saying, I'm a full stack engineer. This means he or she can write program using the following, like a browser using languages like JavaScript, jQuery, Angular, or Vue. Then the person understand the server language such as PHP, ASP, Python, or Node. Then at the same time, the person understand the database languages such as SQL, SQLite, and or MongoDB. If you look at the picture I have here, you can see that a full stack, like I said, the person understands several stacks: the front end stack, the back end stack, the database stack, DevOps stacks. So if somebody understands all these things together, can merge together and work together, that particular person was a full stack engineer or a full stack developer. You can see the front end developer here, JavaScript, like I mentioned earlier, back end, we have the Java here, .NET here, database, MySQL, MongoDB, DevOps, and some other things like that. So now, another thing I want to talk about that you might have heard as a product manager, when you're working with engineers, is the cloud, or you're even working with your DevOps engineers. Maybe you have a DevOps engineers as your friend, or they happen to be in your team. You might have heard a statement like, we have everything on cloud. Well, everything can be on cloud, truly. It refers to actual data site or centers allocated to serve many users. Let's say, for example, now we want to build an app, that they are going to write a lot of code. Let me use the example of a Beacom Dev Center app, where we can actually go there, we can submit our KD presentation, we can do some other things like that within that app. So, I can use that app as I'm here. Somebody somewhere can also use that app as I'm here. If all those things is not being put in a cloud, there's no way, there's no possible way for me to use it, for another person to use it. So all those things that actually make it work is what engineers, DevOps engineers, they make use of a cloud. And in cloud computing, we have about 3 terms, something like a SaaS, PaaS, and IaaS. SaaS means software as a service. Company that actually do software as a service, I can say the example is like a Microsoft. Like Microsoft documents now, we have the Microsoft Docs, we have the one for presentation, we have the one for Excel and some other things. Those are the software, you understand? So there are a lot of things that have been put together for us to can use that software to make our service. So that is exactly what the cloud is all about. Then we also have another one as platform as a service. Like I said earlier, if somebody they work on a particular app now, there's a lot of databases, there's a lot of data that has been stored. There's a lot of things like if I log in now, if I registered now, my data is being stored somewhere. If I want to log in again, there's a way they call in that database I've already stored before. Validation happen for me to log in again. So all those things are being put in a particular place. If not, olden days when you see people using all this mainframe computer, it serve as the normal typical server whereby they do everything. But now, some part of things that they can do in their local machine, they can just have it in a space on the cloud. And that is exactly what the platform as a service it is. So our DevOps engineer, they use this a lot. The other thing again is what is infrastructure as a service. Talking about the server as well, if you look at my picture, we have the physical data center, servers and networking storage. So this is another picture again that can also help us. So the summary is that most of things we do with our computer, either with our apps and some other things like that, maybe have a desktop, laptops, we do a lot of things in the cloud. Now, another thing I want to talk about is the server side and client side. This is more related to the front end and back end that I mentioned the other side. I was trying to use the example of Bincom Dev Center as a website, or talking about their app. I said, if you go to the Bincom Dev Center as a website, there's a lot of things. Let's say you can look at the KDP knowledge development section. You can look at the community event section. You understand? You see some tests over there. You see some things. Like if I click on something, I can see something that happened. That is my client side. I'm a client. I can work with that interface. That is my interface. But if I click on all those things, there are a lot of things that actually happen in the backend. Like I said, there's a lot of automatic validation. The code has been written to make all those things work. Like if this particular thing actually meet up with this thing, this should happen. So that is actually what happened in the server side. So the client side and where it goes to and being granted access is the server side. And you see it in my picture that in the client side, when you make a request, it's good to the server side and you get a response. You get a response on your own side. So that is exactly a client make a request, go to the server side. Based on the code they've written in terms of validation, it's being validated. The person can get a response back. Now, another thing again that is very, very important for the product manager to understand is API. You've heard a lot of things about API. So which we need to understand. The term API stands for Application Program Interface. It is an interface that software developers use to programmatically interact with software components or resources outside of their own code. An API is a part of software component that is accessible to other components. APIs are mediators between two applications. So let me just use a very lame example for this. Let's say, for example, if you go to the Global Tech program for the Bincom, the session on that particular on the website, if you want to apply for some program, there's a way you can actually make your own payments. And and when you click on those payments, you see something like a paper, you see something like a Flutterwave and some other possible fintech company that they actually integrate to their system. The point is, PayPal is not owned by Bincom. You understand? Flutterwave is not owned by Bincom. Those are the payments platform. But what actually makes it possible for them to integrate all those particular platforms into their website is the API. They can use that particular API, to some API are paid, some are free, for them to connect that particular software, which is the Flutterwave or whatever it is, so that people can actually I can make payments for products for Bincom using the Flutterwave through that particular Bincom desktop. I can click on it, it can take me to that API and some other things like that. Because if it is not possible, if that is not possible, it will be too economic, you understand, for the company, for them to build another fintech for them to build another product for people to make payments. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So APIs are mediators between two applications. So we need to see this my picture, like I have here. We need to pull information from this, definitely not a Microsoft service, but don't worry, there's an API for that. So that is what API. If you hear your engineer saying we need to use API for this thing, I'm going to call API for this thing. So that is exactly what your engineer is trying to say. The other thing that we need to talk about is the version control system. So version control system, think about the ease you feel when you and your colleague can easily work on a document at the same time in Google Docs, rather than waiting for one person to finish and having it transferred to you as you have it in Microsoft Word. That scenario in programming field occurs as well, and they call it Git. So what I'm trying to say here is that, let's say, for example, now, most of things we do in Beamcom, we use Google products such as Google Docs, Google Slides, and Google Presentation. So all those things, if I work on my documents now, and from there, I can give access to Akin. Maybe Akin is my colleague or my friend. So as an editor, so that Akin can also work on that particular document. You understand? So the same thing also happens to programmers, the engineers. Let's say Akin is an engineer, Ramani is an engineer, Abdullah is an engineer. Those are three things. They are working on a particular project. They want to work in a particular features of an app, and they are working together. So what actually make it easy for them is the version control system. This Akin can have his own branch of the code. They have the main branch of that particular code, and they can have the branch. Akin will be working on that branch. Otherwise, you can work on that branch it's like a version of it, version of it. And when they are done and they have what to work, they can easily push it to their GitHub. So the Git and GitHub, they work together. So that is exactly what version control system. So we have the local version control system, we have the centralized version control system, and that we have the distributed version control system. So a lot of more details is actually on this picture as well. So another thing again that I want to talk about is unit test and system test. So remember the user stories you wrote and the acceptance requirements you expect it to achieve. That is what unit test is carried out for. While system test checks if the whole product works, fulfill customers' requirements, and does what it was built to do. As a product manager, we write a lot of user stories, for a particular features. Let's say, for example, now as a product manager, I want to write, I want to build a product whereby people can actually log in or sign up on my site websites. You understand? So that is a particular feature. So, and for those features, I need to write an acceptance requirement for it. Acceptance requirement in the sense that, okay, if this particular product, I want, as a user, I want to be able to do this thing, you understand, so that I can do this. As a user, I want to be able to put in my email address and passwords so that I can have access to my data on my cycle, you understand, to see whatever the next now, maybe have access to my dashboard. So that is the user stories about what I can do as a user. At the same time, as a product manager, there has to be acceptance requirements. Okay, let's say, for example, in the email and password should not be case sensitive. You understand? The password should be alphanumeric and some other things like that. So those are things a product manager does. So that is what we mean by unit test and system test. Although there's some profession that actually focus on this. They call them quality assurance engineers, where they do more than ordinary tests. So, but as a product manager, you need to understand the unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and acceptance testing. Then another thing again I want to talk about is the bug. You might have heard a lot of times, fixing a bug can be a sprint. When you're doing your sprint plan, sometimes in a company, it's not every time you build a new product. You are trying to maintain the product you have at the moment, and there is a bug. Fixing that particular bug, it can be a new sprint that you want to work on, you understand? And you might have heard that there's a particular bug you want to fix, and your engineer will be telling you that it will take 3 days or 4 days to fix that, but you feel like, what's even the bug? You might have had statements of like, we're having some bugs. Believe me, they are not referring to bed bugs. A software bug is anything in a piece of code or software that does not make it function properly. It can be major things like missing a particular command, like a line of code, or simply using uppercase instead of lowercase when coding with case-sensitive languages like C++ and Python. So what I'm trying to say is that, in the sense that talking about the bug is actually exists. It's something that actually exists, and it's more like some changes, maybe some errors in the code. And if there's error in code, like we said, they're definitely going to be what there will be in the client side. You are going to see that particular effects. Maybe when people are trying to log in and they couldn't log in, or people are trying to do something and they are getting another error. So that is exactly what bug is all about. If you look at this particular picture here, although it's quite funny, that as an engineer, sometimes you see that when they find one bug, they try to fix that bug. In fixing that bug, they have another more bugs. You understand? So it can be very annoying to them. So as a product manager, you need to understand what bug is all about. So when your engineer is saying something like this, at least you'll be empathetic regarding that, and you can work together for the time that will actually work for the business. I think that for the time that will work for the engineer when you're doing your sprint planning for that bug fixing. The other thing I want to talk about before I jump on the last is the framework. You might have heard that, okay, yes, this is a front-end engineer, I want to build this particular app, but, they will say that we are using this particular framework. Framework, these are choosing environment for development for easy optimizations. Examples are React or Node.js for JavaScript, Django for Python, Laravel for PHP, and many more. So the point is, when it comes to framework, as a product manager, when these are things that you have to be in your own document as well. As a product manager, we do a lot of documentation a lot. Now you want to build an app, even during your own sprint planning, which is very, very important, even the planning for the whole product that you want to build, you need to know the framework you want to use to build that particular app. You need to have that meeting with your technical team to know, okay, this particular app, what programming stack we are using, what is programming languages we are using as well. So, and at the same time, what is the framework we are using? So those discussions is something that you should have, but that is exactly what they mean by framework. Is just environments where they can write a Python language to achieve building that particular product you want to build. With that environment, make it easy for them to use that Python language to do whatever they want to do and achieve that product they want to do. So it depends on the kind of products you are building. So that's exactly what framework is all about. So now, there's a lot of technical terms that I did not cover here. And if I want to cover it, it's going to take a lot of time. But one thing that can actually help you out as a product manager is that, by subscribing to some tech news updates such as TechCrunch.com and Google Alerts. Like me personally, as a product manager, I use Google Alerts. Let's say I'm working on a particular program, trying to build maybe an app for healthcare team for collaboration and some other things like that. So I try my best to to go to Google Alerts, try to register some keywords regarding that particular product. So whenever there is a new update or there's an article or there's a new knowledge regarding that particular, I'm going to get that particular alert. And when I get it, it's one of the major traditional attitude of a product manager, because you need to update it. You are the engine thinking about the vision of the product, which is very, very important. So you subscribe to news like TechCrunch, Google Alert, and some other tech news updates online. You'll be able to know much about more terms, that technical terms that your engineers can use, your designer can use, and it will help you a lot. And by attending tech sessions such as KD session, this is a wonderful, they call it knowledge development session that we're having at the moment. You realize that sometimes you see somebody coming from Python team talking about a particular thing they use in their stack. You see somebody talking from a DevOps engineers taking us through the cloud and some other things like that. You see somebody talking a mobile app developers. You should see it's going to say a lot about a particular framework. And even sometimes I've heard this particular KD session, I've seen people talking seen a lot of things about RESTful API. Like, so if you are attending KD session very well, you are going to learn a lot of a lot of technical terms that will actually help you, when you are working professionally with engineers and designers. Then you can also learn more on job through collaboration with engineers. As you progress in your career, you have opportunities to work with several people from different fields, several people from different roles in engineering, whether somebody as a front-end engineer, a cloud engineer, a cyber security, and some other things like that. So as you keep working with them, you are going to have a lot of collaboration. And if you don't get something, there's something you can check on Google, by learning more. There's some articles you can read more to understand that particular thing, just the knowledge. And at the same time, if you don't understand, you can say, engineer, please, what do you mean by here? Can you explain a bit? So all those things, if you are trying to get all those knowledge bit by bit, you are going to increase your knowledge as a product manager, and it will help you very well to collaborate very well, because it will help you to collaborate, and at the same time, it will help you to understand what they are doing, so that when you need to run a particular task that will take you for like 5 days, and your engineer says it's going to take you a month, because you don't even understand what the whole thing is all about. There's no way you can even have that negotiation, with your engineer, so that you can, because it's very important for the company budget at the same time. You want the company to make profits. You don't want to waste time. You want to ship out some product outside as soon as possible. So if you understand all this collaboration, if you understand all those technical terms, you understand what engineer is using a bit, it's going to help you a whole lot, in doing your negotiation very well, and getting the best products, the best results you want. And Google is your friend. Always check for the meaning of new things on Google. Don't be ashamed to use Google. In conclusion, technical terms are numerous and diverse, and you get to know more as you collaborate with people from different fields. It is important as a product manager to update your knowledge across different fields by making personal research, collaborate productively, and even ask questions sometimes if it seems unclear. Always remember that Google is a friend. Use it productively. Thank you. If there's any questions, you can ask.
Well, thank you very much for the in-depth presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. So if we have
Thank you,
any
sir.
question on that, please let us simply ask. Before then, I just have one question for you. And the question I have is that all the terms I've been hearing since you started, they seem to me to be terms that are only related to programmers. Like I believe all these terms are meant for programmers, and I don't know if what is really the work or the function of a product designer. Are there other terms that are more related to being a product manager, or these are just basically what a product manager needs to know? Are there other terms meant solely for a product manager? Yeah.
All right, thank you so much for that question. There's numerous terms, you understand, apart from this. And talking about the designer, there are several, should I call it designer terms that the product manager should know as well. Let's say, for example, as a product manager, I want to work on a particular, let's say I want to build an app from scratch. It's important for me because the first thing that is going to happen, even before you even do your wireframe, is to do your competitive and market analysis. It's something we do as a product manager, but if a core product designer as well is something they actually do. You understand? Another thing that they do that is not, you may not really do so much. Okay, terms like high fidelity design. You understand? Terms like low fidelity design. Terms like a wireframe and some other things like that. So there's still numerous terms. But any KD session, like I said, you are still going to catch a lot of terms. You are still going to learn a lot of terms that way, and by using Google as well. So, but this particular presentation was more focused on the technical terms. So, but there are more and more. So this is not limited to this. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Elijah.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Thanks so much, Mr. Nuruddin. Okay. So I just have a question. All right. Okay, it's like 3 in 1 combined together. So, like you talked about product designers, right? So I would like to ask: is there any difference between a product designer and a product developer? Like a product designers, product developers, and product managers. All right, or are all three on like similar stuff? Because I think in certain organizations, you have the designer guys, all right, the design, then you have the developers that develop, and then you have the managers. There might be someone either internally or externally who actually oversees this entire process. So do they all mean the same thing, or are there can they be individually subgrouped?
Okay, thank you, Elijah, for that. So, talking about who are the product designers. Okay, product designers, they are the one that actually design the products, and in what sense? And if you are talking about the product designer, you are not just talking about a UX designer, you understand, or a graphic designer. The product designer do more than just design, because their focus is to design what actually matters to the customers. I mean, what the best user interface, you understand, something that can actually eventually bring money for the business, and at the same time keep the users on that particular app or on the page. So, and that aspect of their work, and one of the first things they do is that they do a lot of research and market analysis. So that is in line with what product manager actually, they also do that as well as a product manager, you understand. But what is important is that, in some company, we have startup company, you understand, we have a well-established company. So in some company, let me say like a startup, you understand, you as sometimes as a product manager, you may really focus more at the beginning of that product, focus more on doing your research, you understand, your market analysis yourself. Do you get my point? And some other things like that. And And once you are able to do that, you can even go as far and do your sketch, which is very, very important as a product manager. Even make your low fidelity design. Do you get my point? And eventually now give it out to a UX designer or make the high fidelity design. Or you write more like a document for a UX designer to do the low fidelity and high fidelity. In that sense, you know that the UX designer at that moment may not even do that research or not those market analysis. You understand? But in a well-established company, the product designer, you understand, you as a product division, you know there's a lot of feedback you've gotten already, and you've prioritized that this is the product you want to build exactly. You understand? So in a well-established company, you just need to write a document, the vision of the product you want to build exactly. Let the objectives and goals about that particular product, give it to your product designer. You know, product designer will do so much more market and competitive market analysis regarding that particular product more. You know, do more research analysis regarding that particular product more. Have it reviewed. Then after that, they can now move on to even making their sketch or making their low fidelity design and eventually high fidelity design. Do you get my point? So it depends on the company. So the point is,
Nice.
product designer work is some part of the thing they do at the beginning of their stage of designing a product. You know, is in line with what a product manager is expected to do as well. But doing the high fidelity design and some other thing is a core work of what? Of a product designer. But a product manager is for you to set up, you need to know the vision of the product. You need to prioritize based on the feedback you get, either from the customers, or maybe you're a product manager that is doing business to business, either from
B2B.
other engineers, it may be for
Okay.
engineers, you know, you get your feedback in that side. But you know, when you now design it, so who actually make it into life is the developers. You understand? A designer has done something. Now it's now a work of product manager to write the user stories for it, acceptance requirements for a developer to
Yeah.
develop that particular product. So they work together. So you get my point. So they actually
So
work together.
yeah, permit me. I have one extra question. Permit me, sir, and it's connected to something you mentioned earlier. You said the product design developer. You said he needs to have an understanding about market analysis. You mentioned something like that, right?
No,
Analysis,
product
computer
designer,
analysis.
product designer, not product developer. Product
Designers.
developers are engineers. They are
Okay.
front-end engineer, back-end engineer. Yes, these are
Okay.
product developers.
So now my question is, so like computer analysis and these are some of the concepts you did mention connecting to the designers. In a way, it also sounds like marketing. All right. So let's say if a question was asked, because I'm the one asking the question now. So that means every product designer to a great extent needs to understand certain concepts in marketing, right?
Yes, exactly. If somebody is
Okay.
saying he's a product designer, you are not just designing, you understand? You want to design
Yeah.
the best products that actually work.
Okay. So
But
this is
most
the
of
question.
this, are you still asking the question?
Yes, I just asked to ask a question. So this is the question. So how then, from your own end, do you think it's possible for a marketer, all right, to, let's say, a marketer that wants to not just only migrate, that want to up their game? How possible do you think it is for a marketer to, migrate or successfully combine marketing and product design? So what possible paths do you think a person can take to migrate from being a digital marketer into being a product designer? And what are the requirements per se from your end, since you're already into the field? So what would you say are the necessary requirements for anyone to come into your field and of course become a master in that field?
Okay, one thing is I'm a product manager, you understand? But talking about the product design as a marketer, one of the things that you have to take very important, you understand, is the market research. Is very, very important. Let's say, for example, now I want to build an app that people can use to order for, let me say something like an Uber, you understand? I want to build something that can be better than those things. You get my point? So that is what we call competitive market analysis. You have to do it because you are not just there are some product on ground. Even sometimes you may not even have a direct competitor. It can be an alternative competitor and some other or indirect competitors or some other things like that. I've done a presentation on that in the past. So what I'm trying to say is that you need to do, like, if you want to go into product designer. So if you want to be a very good product designer, you need to understand those analysis very well. You need to know how to make your research. You understand how to do that, your competitive market analysis. Then after that particular one, you can learn a lot more about the design skills. You understand? Design skills in the sense that how do you use the new technology such as Figma? How can you create your look Figma board? You understand? How can you eventually do your high fidelity and some other things like that? So these are things I understand. If as a
Nice.
marketer, you are trying to transit to product designer, but people can also turn as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have
I think there's
someone
yeah.
raised up his hand the other time.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
A bit on me. Yes, Adekunle, please, you can ask your question now.
I put my question in the chat box.
Okay, he said he has dropped it in the chat box. The question reads, you talked about terminologies as a designer who knows sometimes in product development. How do you relate with the developers without making it look like you are teaching them their work?
Okay. Okay, actually, either you're a product manager, you're a product designer, and you understand some term. Normally there is a professional way you collaborate with people. Let's say you are trying to have a technical discussion or a discussion regarding the product you are building. You want to build an app, okay, and you are trying to, maybe you are even talking about the particular first sprint of that app, and you are saying, okay, you are trying to ask the engineer that, okay, this product, this is the vision of this product, this is what success look like to us. So, and these are the maybe the magnitude of the database we are expecting to be using on this particular app. What is the best stack, or what is the best tech stack, or the programming language you can use to write this particular app, or what is the framework, you understand? So the point is, if your engineer knows, okay, let's use Python, we are going to use Django as a framework, or we are using PHP, or Laravel as a framework, you understand? If your engineer says something like that, you understand what he said. You get my point? And as you're having your discussion further, let's say you want to work on a particular, you want to even be the landing page. The high fidelity design is actually ready. And that particular landing page you want to build, it just is static. It's not going to, you're not expecting so much from it. And you ask a designer or a developer, okay, how long? And he said it's taking 2 weeks or 3 weeks. That is somehow absorbed. Like is too much than what it takes. Since the person is actually working for the company and they are being paid a person. It's not as if the best way you can do engineer. I thought it's not going to take so much. What it just needs is just HTML and CSS and this thing. Yes, it may look like you're not telling them their work. You understand? That is where the reason why you need to understand all these particular terms is to help you negotiate well. You understand? Because negotiation is something that is very, very important. Communication is something that is very, very important, because when during your sprint planning, you understand, you want to know the time it will take for you to achieve that, to conclude that particular sprint. And for you need to, in doing that, you won't just take it from your end that, okay, this thing will take 1 week. No, you need to ask your developer, how long will it take you? And if the developer says 2 weeks, engineer, we need this thing very fast. Can it be done in a week? You understand? You are doing your negotiation because you understand what the whole thing is all about. It's help you in negotiating way. So that is just the reason for you as a product manager or product designer to understand this all these particular technical terms. It's just for you to help you in collaboration, communication, and negotiation. I hope
All right,
that helps
thank you. Yeah. Okay, now, thank you very much for the presentation, for answers to all the questions, and how you were able to give us in-depth explanation to all these things. Thank you very much. And for these, we will be coming to the end of today's KD session. If we have any question based on the rescheduling that has just been done, or any question about the KD, we can ask on the KD channel, or you can direct the questions to myself or to Mr. Patrick. So this will be the end of today's session. Thank you very much, and have a very nice working day.
On you too. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.